You ever have one of those days where you're just trying to be a decent human being, and it blows up in your face so spectacularly you end up needing a security escort to your own car? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. So for context, I'm Jasmina and I work at a pretty big liquor store. It was the end of a long, grueling shift and my feet were screaming. All I wanted was to collapse. Our break room is this little closet-sized space in the back, and I figured a 10-minute power nap before my drive home was exactly what the doctor ordered. I was just starting to drift off when a sharp rap on the door jolted me awake. I blinked the sleep out of my eyes and opened it to find a guy looking totally lost among the endless aisles of bottles. "Sorry to bother you," he said, "but do you work here? I can't find." I gave him a tired but friendly smile. "Technically no, mans, I'm off the clock. But tell me what you need, I'll point you in the right direction." He was looking for a specific craft beer. I showed him where it was and he went off happy. No big deal. That's just me, a bit of a people pleaser, even when I'm running on fumes. Feeling a bit more human, I grabbed my stuff to finally head out. I threw on my plain black jacket, which, in a cruel twist of fate, looks almost identical to the employee uniform jacket. I popped in my headphones, ready to disappear into a podcast for my commute home. I was maybe halfway to the exit when it happened. "Hey you, where's the salt?" The voice cut through my music like a buzzsaw. I turned and saw Susan. Now, Susan is a regular, and I use that term loosely. She's the kind of customer who always seems to be spoiling for a fight, complaining that the lines are too long or the prices are $1 higher than last week. I pulled one earbud out. "Sorry, what was that?" "The salt," she snapped, pointing a long, bony finger at me. "For the margarita rims, the pink kind, where is it?" Her tone was less of a question and more of a demand. "Oh, right," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "I'm actually off the clock right now, but it should be over in aisle 4 with the mixers." Susan's face soured, her eyes narrowing on my jacket. "Don't you lie to me. I see you in here all the time. You're wearing the uniform. Now stop being lazy and show me where it is." "Okay, deep breaths, Jasmina. Ma'am, I promise you this is just my jacket. I've already clocked out for the day, but like I said, aisle 4. That's as far as I got. Before I could even react, she lunged forward and yanked my other headphone right out of my ear, the wire whipping against my cheek. "Don't you dare ignore me," she shrieked, her voice echoing in the store. All the exhaustion, all the people-pleasing, it just vanished in a flash of white-hot anger. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I yelled, stumbling back. "You can't just touch people." Her face contorted into a mask of pure rage. "You lazy, useless child, I'm going to get you fired. You think you can just lie to customers and get away with it?" I'd had it, all my patience was gone. "Get the hell away from me, you crazy lady." That's when she tried to grab me, her fingers digging into my shoulder like claws. I twisted away, shoving her hand off me, and just stormed towards the front of the store, my whole body shaking. I didn't even know where I was going, just away from her. As I got to the registers, I saw my manager, David, hurrying over. He'd clearly heard the commotion. Susan was right behind me, still spitting insults. "Jasmina, are you okay?" David asked, his eyes wide. Before I could answer, Susan started screeching at him. "Your employee assaulted me. She refused to do her job, and then she assaulted me." David held up a hand, his face a perfect mask of managerial calm. "Ma'am, I saw the whole thing on the security camera. You initiated physical contact after she repeatedly told you she was off duty. You need to leave the premises immediately, and you are no longer welcome in this store." Well, that sent her into orbit. She started screaming, calling him every name in the book, a little fleck of spit flying from her lips. That's when the security guard, a big, gentle guy named Marcus, stepped in. David handled her while Marcus came over to me. "You okay, kid? Seen a lot of crazies, but she's a special one." I just nodded, still too shaky to really speak. "Let me walk you to your car," he offered. I've never been more grateful to accept an offer in my life. Driving home, the adrenaline finally crashed, leaving this shaky, hollow feeling in its place. The whole insane encounter kept replaying in my head. All that fury, all that ugliness over a box of salt. It really makes you wonder about people, you know. Before we get into the last story, and trust me, it's the wildest one yet, make sure to subscribe. You won't want to miss the next one.
Ever have one of those moments in a grocery store where you witness something so brazenly awful you just know you can't let it slide? My girlfriend Maya and I found ourselves in that exact situation last Friday. What started as a chill evening grocery run quickly devolved into a full-blown mission to give a racist Karen a taste of her own medicine. It was around 5 p.m. Friday evening We were planning a cozy dinner, so we headed to our local supermarket ready to grab some ingredients. I was feeling pretty good, actually. I was wearing this new blue shirt I'd spent hours hand designing, feeling a bit like a walking piece of art. Maya, always stylish, was rocking her favorite band tee and some ripped jeans. We were just vibing, you know. We hit the sample station first, free mini quiches, score. The employee, a super friendly guy named Mark, I caught his name tag, was handing them out with a big smile. We thanked him and started wandering the aisles, grabbing our usuals. That's when we first spotted her, a woman in a bright, almost blinding, yellow sundress. She wasn't lost so much as she seemed to be surveying the place like she owned it, a permanent scowl etched onto her face. We mentally dubbed her Yellow Dress Karen on the spot and just kept moving. A few aisles later, while we were debating organic versus regular pasta sauce, we saw Mark again, diligently stocking shelves. Yellow Dress Karen was there too, looking increasingly impatient. She spotted us and stomped over. "Excuse me," she snapped, not even a please. "Where's the tomato paste?" Maya, always polite, started to point her in the right direction. But before she could finish, Mark, ever helpful, stepped forward. "It's usually over in aisle 4, ma'am, just past." He didn't even get to finish his sentence. Yellow Dress Karen cut him off, her eyes completely glazing over him as if he were invisible. She turned back to us, her voice dripping with disdain. "No, I need someone who actually works here to help me. I don't deal with those people." And she pointed a perfectly manicured finger directly at Mark, her implication sickeningly clear. My blood just boiled. Mark, bless his heart, looked like he'd been hit. He tried again. "Ma'am, I assure you I can help you with that." But she completely ignored him, turning her back, and then, get this, she wagged her finger at me like I was the one being rude. "Are you going to help me or not?" she demanded, her gaze still pointedly avoiding Mark. I took a deep breath. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "neither of us work here. And frankly, the man you just dismissed does work here, and he was trying to help you. Your behavior is unacceptable." Maya just nodded grimly beside me. She scoffed. "Well, I don't need his help. And I certainly don't need yours if you're going to be so rude." She huffed, spun on her heel, and stalked off down the aisle, still without her tomato paste. Maya and I just stood there, stunned, watching her disappear. Did she just? Maya started, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Oh, she did," I finished, a mischievous grin slowly spreading across my face. We exchanged a look, a silent, mutual understanding passing between us. This woman had just openly disrespected a kind employee because of his race, and we weren't about to let her sail through her shopping trip scot-free. Our grocery list could wait. Operation Annoy Yellow Dress Karen was officially a go. Our first move, obnoxious PDA. We caught up to her in the frozen food section, and suddenly Maya and I were the most disgustingly lovey-dovey couple you've ever seen. Holding hands, lingering hugs, exaggerated whispers into each other's ears, little kisses on the cheek. Every time she'd glance our way, we'd amp it up. She'd shoot us these withering glares, her face screwing up in pure repulsion, but we just kept giggling and being sickeningly affectionate. It was glorious. Then we moved on to strategic blocking. We'd accidentally leave our cart in her path or linger in front of the exact cereal she was reaching for. Whenever she'd speed up, we'd speed up. If she slowed down, so did we. We weren't following her, oh no, we were just coincidentally always in her vicinity, making her shopping experience as frustrating as possible without breaking any rules. Finally, we hit the checkout. Naturally, we positioned ourselves directly behind her. As she started unloading her items, Maya and I unleashed our final weapon, subtle yet utterly maddening auditory torture. We started having a very important discussion in loud whispers about the most mundane things. "Oh honey, did you remember to pre-soak the lentils for 3 full hours, or was it just 2? No, darling. You have to get the triple filtered organic water for the cat's bowl, otherwise her fur won't be as lustrous." We'd punctuate this with exaggerated sighs, fake coughs, and the occasional, almost imperceptible lip-smacking sound. Every time she'd flinch or glance back, we'd widen our eyes innocently like we were just having the most normal conversation ever. The checkout clerk, bless her, was doing her best to hide a smile. Yellow dress Karen's face was a roadmap of escalating fury. She was fumbling with her card, practically vibrating with rage. Then, as Maya made a particularly loud I just wonder if that's a fair price for those heirloom tomatoes, Karen snapped. She slammed her hand on the counter, her voice a strangled screech. Can you two be quiet? She shrieked, her eyes bulging. I can't take this. She grabbed her half-paid-for bags, leaving the rest of her groceries, and practically sprinted out of the store, muttering incoherently about disgusting young people and no respect. She didn't even wait for her receipt. Maya and I just looked at each other, then burst out laughing. We finished paying for our own groceries, feeling a profound sense of satisfaction. It wasn't some grand gesture, but seeing that woman, so full of hate and entitlement, completely unravel because of a little well-placed annoyance, yeah, that felt pretty damn good. So yeah, sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just being an inconvenient, annoyingly affectionate and slightly noisy presence until a Karen implodes. And honestly, I wouldn't have had my Friday night any other way. Thanks for reading.
Directing traffic is a nightmare on a good day. Directing traffic during a chaotic kids event is worse. Directing traffic for a hospital's trunk or treat while you're sweating inside 60 pounds of steel plate armor, well, that's a special kind of hell where you meet some very special people. So let's back up. My name's Ethan, and I have a habit of getting into weird situations thanks to my hobbies. My latest obsession was medieval history, which led me down a very expensive rabbit hole that ended with a full, glorious, and ridiculously heavy suit of plate armor arriving at my door. I bought it for the local Renaissance fair, and let me tell you, I was the clankiest, shiniest guy there. It was awesome, but once the fair was over, I had a very expensive, human-shaped lawn ornament. I couldn't just let it sit there. My family and I have volunteered at our local children's hospital for years, and their annual trunk or treat was coming up. It's a huge event where volunteers decorate their car trunks and hand out candy in the parking lot so kids who are stuck in the hospital can still have a Halloween. A light bulb went off over my head, or more accurately, a great helm. I was going to be Sir Ethan, the Candy Knight. The organizers loved the idea, but they had a problem. They were short-handed on traffic control, and so, through a series of logical decisions that somehow ended up making no sense at all, I was assigned to direct the flow of cars, in full armor. The first hour was magical. The kids' eyes went wide when they saw me. Little ones dressed as dragons and princesses would shyly approach, and I'd lower a handful of candy to them with a clatter of my steel gauntlet. The parents thought it was hilarious, taking pictures and giving me thumbs-ups. I was hot, my vision was basically a narrow slit, and every movement was a production, but I was having the time of my life. And then he arrived. A pristine black luxury SUV, the kind that costs more than my college education, tried to cut the entire line of minivans and sedans. I moved to block him, holding up a gauntleted hand in the universal sign for "Hey buddy, not so fast." The tinted window slid down with an expensive hum. Inside sat a man, probably in his late 40s, with a slick-back haircut and a polo shirt that probably had a tiny embroidered horse on it. He wasn't smiling. "Move it, Tin Man," he barked, not even looking at me but past me at the event. I decided to stay in character. It was fun, right? "Patience, my good sir," I boomed, my voice echoing weirdly in the helmet. The line forms to the rear, as is tradition. This was, apparently, the wrong thing to say. His head snapped towards me, his eyes narrowing. "Did you just talk back to me? I'm not waiting in some line with all these people. My son needs his candy. Now move." I could see a little boy, maybe 7 or 8, in a Spider-Man costume in the passenger seat. He looked less excited about candy and more mortified by his own father. "Sir, everyone here is waiting their turn," I said, dropping the knightly voice. "It's for the kids. Just follow the loop like everyone else." That's when he put the car in park. The engine stayed on, a low, angry rumble. He opened the door and got out, slamming it behind him. He was one of those guys who isn't physically imposing, but carries himself like he owns the air everyone else breathes. "Listen to me, you overgrown toy," he hissed, jabbing a finger towards my breastplate. It made a dull thunk. "I am a major donor to this hospital. My name is on a plaque in the lobby. I don't wait. You are going to let my car through, right now." Okay, so the fun part was over. The line of cars behind him was starting to honk. A few parents were craning their necks, and I could feel 100 pairs of eyes on us. My friend Sarah, a nurse who was volunteering at the check-in table, started walking over, a concerned look on her face. I stood my ground. The 60 pounds of steel suddenly felt less like a costume and more like, well, armor. I don't care if you're the King of England, sir. You're not cutting in front of these families, and you're not ruining this for these kids. He actually scoffed. Or what, you'll clank at me. He gave my shoulder a hard shove. It was a mistake. Shoving a normal person makes them stumble. Shoving 200 pounds of man wrapped in 60 pounds of solid steel is like trying to push a refrigerator. I didn't move an inch. He, however, stumbled back, shaking his hand like he'd just punched a brick wall. That's when Sarah arrived. Is there a problem here, sir? She asked, in that calm, no-nonsense nurse voice that can stop a charging rhino. Yes, there's a problem, he snarled, pointing at me. This clown is refusing to let me through. He's directing traffic, and you're holding up the entire event, Sarah said, her eyes flinty. You can either get back in your car and go to the back of the line, or you can leave. The man looked from my immovable, steel-clad form to Sarah's unyielding glare. He glanced at his car, where his son had pulled his Spider-Man mask over his face, clearly wishing he could disappear, defeated by a knight and a nurse. He let out a string of curses under his breath, threw his hands up, and stomped back to his SUV. He didn't go to the back of the line. He just revved the engine, made a furious U-turn, and squealed out of the parking lot. The moment he was gone, the line of cars erupted in cheers and applause. I flipped up my visor, drenched in sweat but grinning from ear to ear. The dad in the minivan right behind where the SUV had been gave me a huge thumbs up. Nice work, Sir Knight, he yelled. For the rest of the night, I was a hero. I was no longer just some guy in a silly costume. I was the guardian of the trunk or treat, the vanquisher of the entitled dad. And you know what? Standing up for a bunch of kids while dressed like a medieval warrior felt a whole lot better than just showing off at a Ren fair. Sometimes, you just need the right armor for the job.
Don't miss this next video, it's a good follow-up.